Interview. Your paperwork will not make or break you. Your interview is where you get the job as Miss Marie. This is a job interview. You are interviewing to be an ambassador for the Miss America program. You are interviewing to be an ambassador for Murray City, who lives by Murray City standards, who helps Murray City do good things, and you got to make Murray City look good, yeah? Um, Interview also includes your judges may be looking at your social media ahead of time. Make sure it's clean, make sure there's not filth, make sure there's not swears, make sure there's not nudity and bad things. You need to be an ambassador for the program. Yeah? Now, as far as the interview go, I'm going to give you a couple of do's and don'ts. So, um, do be yourself. They want you to be authentic. This is your time to shine. Do be honest. I don't know that Lindsay does this. Miss Lloyd, love her. I think she broke some rules. She actually had note cards for each of the contestants and said, this person did this person did this. And she wrote on my note card, I was late to two of the practices. Yeah. And one of the judges asked me, were you late to any of the practices? And I said, yeah, I was late to two of the practices. And she told me that's why she chose me because I was overall good, but I was honest. I didn't lie about my faults. Yeah. Do know your CSI and fact sheet inside and out. That's where a majority of the questions are going to come from. They want to ask questions about you. You are here to be an ambassador for the program, so they want to know about you. Yeah? Um, do look the person in the eye that asked the question. So when you're answering a question, and this is kind of a higher, like if you can, if they ask you a question, answer to them, look around at everyone else and finish with them if you can. If that's too much to remember, don't worry about it. In the year 2025, you guys will be at a podium, so you will be standing. I suggest standing with your feet in close together and use your hands, use your arms. Yeah, that's my next thing. Do use your hands. Do tell stories. You should have a story about your CSI. Somebody asked me about my CSI. Let's say that my CSI is Down syndrome awareness. My niece has Down syndrome and da 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 da. The day she was born. You should have a story, especially when it's something about your CSI. I personally would pick 3 stories about your CSI that are important to you. Of it can even be a national story. This was important to me because I saw this thing on the news. So da 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 da. I saw this on the news, but it felt like it happened to me. Have stories about your CSI. Keep your answers 3 to 4 sentences unless there's a story. When there's a story, it can be a little bit longer. Do be prepared for stupid questions. These are regular people. I had one person ask me in an interview if I were a chip, what kind would I be? And I was like, I don't know, ranch because they're delicious. Actually, I said sour cream and onion because I like those. But another girl came out of the interview and in that same thing, she said a computer chip because she runs really fast. So be prepared for that, especially things around your CSI. We had a girl one year who her platform was about, now I'm feeling really bad, but it's about uh, I want to say split personality disorder. That's not the correct verbiage, and I'm feeling really bad right now. But they asked her a question specific about that, and it was a poignant question. It was something that should be addressed if that's really going to be her CSI. Just come at your CSI from a couple of different directions. Ask ChatGPT, what are 50 questions that somebody could ask me about this thing? What are 50 controversial questions that they can ask me about this thing? Now, at the local level, they're really not going to be focusing on that. They're going to lob you a lot of softballs. They want you to do good. And I'll be frank with you, if you get a hard question, it means you're doing good in the interview. So a hard question is not a bad or a good thing necessarily, but if they think you can handle the question, they're going to ask it to you. Um, don'ts. Don't say or like. Our Miss Lindsay, before I was Miss Murray, when she was helping me with interview prep, I would say a conversation, and every time I said the word like, because I was really bad at saying the word like, every time I said the word like, she'd go, like! So if you would like, have your mom or your dad or your stepbrother or your stepsister or your stepmom or your grandma follow you around and interview you. And when you say the word like or have them shout it back at you. That's a really fun thing, and it's super annoying, and it will make sure that you don't say that. The other word that I don't love personally, and this is a personal preference, I don't love the word but. Like, like, um, kids who have special needs are just kids, but something else. Whenever you say the word but, you're kicking out what you last said. So I typically like to say the word and instead of but. That is a personal preference for me. Just keep that in mind. I'm saying Don't make an answer long because you feel like you need to. If your answer is short, let them ask a new question. If they ask you a very poignant question and your answer is no, and you don't want to explain yourself or you don't feel like it's necessary, just say no and stand there confidently and wait for the next question. Don't ramble at the same time. If you realize that you've gone too long, try and answer it and finish it and be done. Don't not answer the question. This should have been in the do's. Answer the question. If they ask you a specific question, answer it rather than rambling on something else. Yeah. Don't get defensive. Like I said, if they're asking you hard questions, it's because they think that you've thought about it and they want to poke you a little bit to see if you will be able to do it. If I am interviewing any of you on Zoom or in person, just know that I will do that. I promise you, I will poke you because I want to see how you'll react. So don't get defensive, especially if it's anything to do with your CSI. It's fair game. Now, I don't most of the time they're not going to, but just realize. Don't overuse buzzwords. The word passionate, please take it out of your vocabulary. It is way overused. And if there's any other buzzwords that you hear about, like try and take them out. As we interview, other people on the committee will try and point out what buzzwords there are that you're using. They just don't use the word passionate if you can. If you can, please don't. Find other ways to say it. I'm excited. I love this because. Don't shrink yourself. I know I've met you contestants this year, and there is no way for any of you to sound too prideful. You brag about yourself as much as possible. We are looking for a fantastic person to do a fantastic job. Now, I realize I'm not a judge, but they're looking for the same thing. Yeah? Okay. Let's see. They're, so for the interview, they're looking for three things. They're looking for a strong woman. They're looking for strong CSI, somebody who's going to get it done. And they're going to look for strong interview skills and somebody who can public speak because a majority of what you're going to be doing is public speaking. You're not necessarily going to play the piano or dance in most of your public appearances. They're looking for clarity, confidence, and authenticity. They're looking for somebody who is going to be a good person for the brand of Miss America and for the brand of Murray City. Yeah. On the interview, sorry, I should have started with this. There's gonna be 30 seconds to introduce yourself and your CSI. Then there's 9 minutes timed of questions back and forth. And then at 9 minutes and 30 seconds, they'll say, hey, we are out of time. Is there anything else you would like to say? Don't say no. Wrap it up with something that's meaningful and important. You can say something that you've already said in the interview to make sure that they remember that one thing about you. And then you're done. The best way to practice the interview is to be interviewed. Post it on your Facebook or your Instagram. I know you're probably too young and you use Instagram. Hey, I'm going for Miss Murray. Would anyone be willing to do a 10-minute interview with me on Zoom? I promise you people will say yes. Record it so you can watch yourself back and you can see what you do. We all have weird nervous tics that we do that we don't notice unless we're watching ourselves. And then, oh, one other quick thing. Raise your hand if you have cried in an interview. I cried every year in my interview. I did 3 times before I won Miss Murray. I cried every year in my interview. And it's okay if you cry, just get right back on track. I know the second year I cried because at that point in time, my platform was Make-A-Wish. See, I'm gonna cry now. And my wish kid got to get his wish granted, and then he passed 2 weeks later. That's an emotional thing. These platforms are things that really change the world, and if you really feel strongly about it, you should have emotions about it. But pull it right back on track and keep going with the interview. Okay, that is kind of the general thoughts, do's, don'ts, how it works. Oh, don't shake their hands. We will introduce you. Introducing contestant number 1, Stacey-Marie Hansen. and then you'll walk in, you'll plant yourself in front of that podium, and then somebody will ask you, they'll say, please introduce yourself. So they'll say something first. Don't go shake their hands. Don't thank them for being there. They know they know that we're grateful for them. I'm trying to think if there are any other weird, quirky things that people do. If you have questions, shoot me or Lindsay or Lisa or anyone else a text. Do use your resources. We are here to help. Yeah. Okay, and you know what? I was gonna make this a separate video. I'm just gonna keep going. I have a pro tip for interview. If you are so overwhelmed with the interview, do not worry about this. But one thing that I suggest is having 3 things that are on your CSI or are on your worksheet that you want to point out. For me, it was I talked about how I structured my pay it forward and how I'm able to delegate my responsibilities so I can scale easier. My other one was I love to Stacify people because I liked to do hair and makeup. And then the other one was that I like to dress up like a rubber ducky. And when I talked about rubber ducky, I would talk about Make-A-Wish and how I'd raise $7,000 for Make-A-Wish. So I had those 3 like in my pocket, and I would literally, this is what I would do. You don't have to do this. If one of them was said, so I literally, this was rubber ducky, this was this was this. If one of them was said, I would tap it on my thigh. So I knew which one was said, and then I would know which one hadn't been said. So, hey, we've gone through the whole interview. Is there anything else you'd like to say? I'd say, you know what? I want to tell you, sometimes I dress up like a rubber ducky. And then I tell them about my work with Make-A-Wish. So that's a pro tip. If you are so overwhelmed, do not worry about that. I would say make sure you have one thing, though, that you want them to know. You can say it in your introduction. They can ask you about it. Oh. Stella, sorry. And even if you say it in your closing statement, that's fine. If there is one thing you want them to know about you, tell them about it over and over and over, and that is not a problem. Okay, one other pro tip is to utilize every question. For instance, so I did junior miss, Lindsay did the junior miss too. I don't know if you know this, but Lindsay was Utah's junior miss. She won the state program. But the girl that I was going against, I knew I wouldn't win, but I watched one of her interviews before she went to America's Junior Miss, and she won that, by the way. She won the whole nation. So I knew going in that I wasn't going to win. That's when I started just getting Miss Congeniality because I was just there for everyone else. It was just fun for me. But one of the questions that they asked her was, what is your favorite color? And for me, I would say sparkle is my favorite color because that just tells you a little bit about me. And but she said, blue is my favorite color because it reminds me of going to Lake Powell and spending time with my family. So every single little question like that gets asked. What cartoon character are you like? What is your favorite book? Who is your mentor? All of those things, you can utilize the question to tell a little bit more about yourself, even if it's kind of a stupid question. What's your favorite food? Oh, I love pizza because me and my friends go to the Pie every Thursday night at 10:10. I don't do that anymore. I did in college. Okay, that is my thoughts on interview. And the best way to prepare for an interview is to ask people to interview you. Print your fact sheet, print your CSI, give it to your family member, your friends, other people who you know who have done pageants in the past, us, your pageant committee. You can post it on Facebook, you can post it on Instagram, ask people, business owners around you, say, hey, I'm doing an interview, will you interview me? And you'll be shocked at how many people are willing to do it. The other thing, pro tip on this, if you're going to do that, I would create a calendar for yourself, like on Calendly, which is free. And just put little 10-minute things like this Friday, hey, will you just pick 10 minutes on this date and have them put in a date and then you can do it on Zoom. It's better if you have a panel, but if you're just doing one-on-one, you're still going to be able to answer the questions over and over and over again. You can also have ChatGPT. Put in your stuff on ChatGPT and have it ask you questions and then respond back and like record yourself on Zoom. Yeah, there's a million different ways to prepare for it, but the best way to prepare for interview is to know your fact sheet, know your CSI, and practice interviewing. Yeah? Okay. You got this. Don't worry. One other quick side note on interview. Sorry, this video is getting long. This is the number one best skill that you will likely take from Miss Marie is being able to interview. I have Miss Marie Mallory Rogers, who literally has gotten every single job she has ever interviewed for because she's such a kick butt interviewer now. Kristen Breeding, I always say her last name wrong, who was an attendant. She was never Miss Murray, but I remember when she went in for her big interview, which was she's Skyline High's dance teacher, and I remember her saying, my Miss Murray interview prep is what prepped me to do this. So this was a long video on this. I might have additional things to add later, but I just wanted one video that kind of has everything on it. You're gonna walk in, you're gonna plant yourself, they're gonna say, introduce yourself, introduce your CSI and yourself in 30 seconds. They're gonna ask questions for 9 minutes. They're gonna ask, is there anything else you'd like to say? Wrap it up, have one thing about you that you really want them to know, and then be done and smile. Yeah, you got this. I promise you can do a great job. They want you to do good. They're not gonna be mean. They want you to do good.